Hi, friends. Today, for our comprehension lesson, we are going to be talking about different kinds of text. So, the two different types of text we are going to look at today are fiction text and nonfiction text. So, to start off, we're going to talk about fiction text. And fiction text is probably something that you are pretty familiar with. Do you have a favorite storybook that you like to read, or a book that somebody likes to read to you, or you like to hear? Well, if so, and it has a story in it, which means there are characters, there's a setting, so it takes place somewhere, there's a beginning, middle, and end, and you have lots of pictures. It's probably a fiction book. So, fiction books are made up stories. Fiction is not real. So, another way that I remember fiction not being real, the word fiction and fake both start with an F. So to me, I remember fiction is fake. Now, in fiction books, you are going to have characters. You are going to have a setting. So, like I said, this place where the story happens. And there's going to be a beginning, a middle, a problem, and then the problem is going to be solved. You will also see illustrations, as I mentioned before. Another thing that will give you a clue as to what kind of book it might be a fiction book if you see animals acting like people. So, if an animal is maybe wearing clothes, or if an animal is talking, that's a big clue that the story is fiction or fake. It's made up. We know that animals don't wear clothes. We know that animals don't talk. Animals are not people, and they do not act like people. So when you see a book that has these clues, it is likely a fiction or fake story. It is made up. All right, so that is fiction. You're probably very familiar with fiction. You've seen lots of fiction books, maybe like Pete the Cat. My favorite, personally, Tacky the Penguin. Um, let's see. I really like stories by Dave Pilkey, like The Halloweener, Dog Breath. Those are all fiction made up stories. What's your favorite fiction made up story? Think about it for a second. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to nonfiction. Okay, so nonfiction is something that you are going to continue to learn about more and more as you get older and as you grow in school. So nonfiction is informational, which means it's not fake. It's real. So the purpose of a nonfiction book is that it's supposed to teach you something. So it teaches us information, and it's going to give us facts. Nonfiction is real. I like to remember nonfiction is not fake. It is not fake. So, in nonfiction, you are going to see things like text features. You might see graphs, you might see little informational boxes. You're going to be given information that's going to support what you're reading. You are also going to see photographs. Now, what's the difference between a photograph and a picture or an illustration? Think about that. The difference between a photograph and an illustration. Do you know? Well, a photograph is something that was actually taken with a camera. Here's a picture of a camera. And it's of something real, or it's taken of something real. So it might be a picture of a tree that you really see, a real tree in your backyard, or it might be a person, a real person that someone took a camera and they took a snapshot, and that's the actual person. So it's of something real. Now, an illustration is a drawing. So that's going to be your difference. You're going to see photographs in nonfiction text. So, if you are looking at finding a nonfiction text, you might want to be learning about something. So, a few different topics that you could possibly learn about, or nonfiction topics, could be holidays like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Maybe you might read a book on animals. So you might learn something about animals in a nonfiction text. Or you might even learn about sports. What's your favorite sport? My favorite sport to watch is hockey, but I am a swimmer and I also like to bike. So those are my favorite two sports that I do on my own, but I do like to watch hockey quite a bit. I like to watch the Blackhawks. What's your favorite sport to watch? Do you like baseball? Football? Let me know. All right. So let's go ahead and look at some examples. Since this is summertime, I figured let's go ahead and look at 2 examples that have to do with swimming. So I love this first book. This book is called Jump in the Pool. This first book is a fiction text. What's a clue that tells us this is a fiction text? Well, look at the front. The picture on the front is an illustration. It is an illustration. That means that the person who was responsible for the pictures actually drew this. Pretty amazing, right? So we know that that's a clue that's going to help us understand that this is a fiction or fake book. So in a fiction book, we have characters. Dan is a character in this story, and it talks about what Dan likes to do. There is a beginning, there is a middle, there is an end. There's a problem, and the problem is solved. So these are clues that this is a fiction story. Now let's go ahead and look at a nonfiction or informational text about swimming. All right, so let's click on Swimming Time. And I actually started looking at this book before I showed it to you guys. This is a nonfiction text. It's hard to tell from the cover of the book, but when I open it up, I see a picture of a little boy swimming. Now, this is a real little boy, and he's got on real goggles and a real swim cap. And it starts off teaching us about swimming. So I know this is an informational text, and I know that it is nonfiction. So I can learn things as I read this book. This book was written to teach me something. I think it's pretty cool. All right. So to review, fiction means fake. If a story is fiction, it is pretend. Fiction is pretend. Fiction is fake. We have stories like Pete the Cat, maybe. Skippy John Jones. Those are stories that are pretend. They are fiction. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They have main characters. They have a problem, and the problem is solved. Now, we have books like this, like learning about swimming. This book is nonfiction. So it was written to teach us something. We see real pictures of real people swimming in this book. So we are going to read this book to learn about swimming. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this lesson on fiction and nonfiction. What is your favorite type of book to read? Do you like fiction or do you like nonfiction? You'll have to let me know. Good job today on your lesson.